I'm going to Brazil tomorrow to shoot over the Formula One Grand Prix weekend. I'm flying over to London tomorrow where I get a brief, and then I fly over to Brazil. So as of now, I'm not entirely sure what I'm shooting. I'm shooting both photo and video, I know that, but otherwise I'm not really sure. So I wanted to take this opportunity and talk about my essential camera gear. And yeah, so this is my essential camera bag for the end of 2024, beginning of 2025. Let's first talk about the bags that I use. Usually I use around 3 bags, especially when I'm traveling. First of all, is this one. This is my main bag. This is some think tank, airport, international, whatever. It's just a carry-on roller bag, looks very inconspicuous. I opted for this instead of a Pelican case, mainly because Pelican cases, look too professional. If you're walking around an airport, security wants to stop you, see what's going on. And if you're like abroad, people want to steal Pelican cases because there's usually something important in them. This one doesn't look as suspicious, and also it's soft, so I can, cram a little bit more stuff in. But then I have 2 more bags. First of all, I have like this Peak Design side bag. Now this bag I use in the airport, walking around the city. It's just, I don't know, there's nothing much to say. It's just a side bag. It goes on like this. You can have a camera, passport, battery bank, whatever. Just good for walking around. But then because, I'm probably going to be walking around a lot, I'm not going to be carrying this around everywhere I go. This is mainly for traveling and having all my gear centralized. But for when I'm walking around the town, because I know I'm going to be walking around Brazil and Sao Paulo a bit, I need something smaller. And that's this. Well, I don't know if it's much smaller, but at least I can fit it on my back. This is some Peak Design backpack, everyday carry, big something or other, I don't know. It's great. I've had it for like 3 or 4 years now. Best backpack on the market right now. So I love it. It's good. I have the Peak Design clip here, so I can stick a camera on here. It has this, so if it's heavy, I can put the weight a little bit on my hips. This doesn't go on my back while traveling. I throw this in my checked bag, empty, and then take it out when I need to while I'm in Brazil if I need, if I need to put stuff in my backpack and carry around. Otherwise, it's just camera in hand and the small bag. And then of course I have, in every bag, I carry right here, an AirTag. An AirTag goes into every single bag, checked bag, backpack, side bag, for obvious reasons. So this is what the bag looks like on the inside. No judging, okay? This is not the prettiest layout, I know, but it works for me. It's controlled chaos, right? And I want to use every single square centimeter, every single milliliter of this backpack. I want to cram it full of stuff, because the more I take here, the less I have to put in my check bag. And it's just, my gear is safer with me. Let's first go over the cameras. I mean, this is, I think, the least interesting part because it's just pretty basic. This is the A7S III, and then I have the A7R5. So you guys know these cameras, basic cameras. A7S III for video, obviously. Great for low light, great for, action shots, no rolling shutter really of any kind. A7R5, good for photos, great for photos, lovely for photos. But not so great with video. But if I need to, if I need to be hybrid with one camera, I choose the A7R5. But otherwise, I'm usually dual wielding like 98% of the time. 98% of the time I have the same cameras. But then I also have a backup camera. It's the FX30, which is actually recording up here. And it's usually just a B camera or C camera even. It's just, I use it for behind the scenes. I use it for, if I need to have like tiny camera, I pair it with this lens here, the 11mm f1.8. I mean, it's tiny, as you can see. It's absolutely teeny tiny. And then actually the 4th camera, if I can find it here somewhere, is the Insta360 X3. It's my behind the scenes camera. I mean, I don't use it a lot. Well, actually I use it a lot, but I don't post anything really from it because I'm just bad at social media. And also some of the stuff that I posted was not very well received by a certain international motorsports regulation company. I ended in some hot water, but whatever. Yeah, so this is just my behind the scenes camera. I like this more than just shooting with my phone or shooting with like a GoPro or something, because I can just stick this on, don't have to think about angles, don't have to think about any of that. I can just think about all that later. So nice peace of mind, keep me in the moment, just stick it on, record, stop thinking about it. I'll think about, you know, framing and whatever later. But whatever, cameras don't really matter. It's the lenses where it gets kind of more interesting. So my main lens is the Tamron 35-150. This sits on my A7R5 most of the time because I use it mostly for photos. And I mean, my favorite lens of all time. It has my exact focal range with a great aperture range, and you know, it's almost perfect. A little bit of distortion, but doesn't really matter. But on my A7S III, I usually have the trusty 24-105 f4. I mean, it has optical image stabilization, which is great. It's super sharp. It's super easy to use. It's super light. You know, it's great. You know, it was either this, the 24-105, or the 24-70-2.8. But I like the range a little bit more than the lower f-stop, especially because I have the A7S III. I can bump it up to 12,800 ISO without that big of a problem. So, I mean, this is my choice. I've used it for, this lens has to be like 5 years old now. Nothing insane, it's just a workhorse that I can rely on, so I like that lens. And then for wider shots, if it's, you know, whether it's photos or videos, especially like vertical stuff, if I'm doing like reels, I use the Sigma 16-28 f2.8. And I mainly chose this lens over the 16-35 Sony one because just of price, size, and weight. This is smaller, this is cheaper. I mean, it's not as good, but it's good enough, you know, so this is my wide angle camera. And do not judge me for not having lens caps because I always lose them. And none of my lenses are that scratched, so it's fine. But then I also have one lens here. It's the Sony Zeiss 50mm f1.4. Now this lens is very old. Well, not very old, but like it's pretty old. It's the oldest piece of equipment I have in here. I used it a lot a few years ago, a whole lot, but then I got the Tamron, so I didn't use this one as much, and then I dropped it and it kind of broke a little bit, but I managed to fix it. And it's just been sitting on my shelf really untouched for more like 2 years. I haven't shot on it in 2 years. So, I mean, I just wanted to take it with me and, I don't know, just shoot on it, have some fun. I mean, it was my favorite lens for a long time, so. But now what about all of this extra stuff that's in here? So out of everything here, out of the additional camera gear, camera-related stuff, I think I use this thing the most. This is a V-mount plate holder, which I can just slide right under my A7S rig. And then I can just put on one of my 2 smaller batteries, and boom, I have a battery for my A7S III. I power it either through like a dummy battery or a USB-C cable. There's also another reason why I put a battery on my camera. It's not just for the battery life, it's also about the vibrations. Because I feel like if you're just holding the body and a lens itself, the cameras are so light that you get some weird vibration that kind of gives it away that you're shooting on a tiny little camera. So I feel like I get a more cinematic, natural, movie-like look by putting a little bit of extra weight so that the camera shake is more of a shake rather than a vibration, you know what I mean? So that's what I like. But then we have in this side pocket right here, it's all packed in here very tight. I don't want to take it out, but in here we have the Ronin RS3. Not very interesting, just a Ronin RS3. And then on the side of the bag, I usually have a Peak Design travel tripod, the aluminum version. It's right there on this camera, so I can't show you. And then I usually have 3 microphones with me, or on me, for these sorts of projects. First of all, it's just the basic Sony on-camera microphone, the ECM B1M or something like that. It's fine, it's just one of these Rode type microphones, whatever. It's digital, so it auto levels, which is nice. No wires, no battery. I just plug it into the camera, and it's good. It does, you know, pick up a lot of wind noise, and then it like, you can hear it here. It jiggles, which is annoying. But then I have also the Sennheiser MKE600, and then I also have the Sennheiser MKH416, which is great, but that's phantom power and I can't plug it straight into the camera, so it's a bit of a pain in the ass. But this one's battery powered, so, and sounds almost the same, so great. And then, of course, Rode Wireless Pro microphones, 30-bit internal recording. I can just stick them on a person and forget about it. I'm using one right now. These are great. And this is good because I don't know what I'm gonna be recording. If I'm just gonna be recording some run and gun event video most of the time, I'm gonna be using this. If I'm going to be, taking some run and gun interviews with people around the streets, I might use this for a little bit more direction, a little bit more quality. But if I'm shooting with a driver or something, like, where I have a little bit of time to put a mic on him, I can use the Rode ones. So I'm ready for anything. Then I also have a Nisi mini matte box with some filters and ND filter, which is nice if I'm, having a sit-down interview or something like that. Also just to look a bit more professional, which is always nice to do in, like, when you're going to a big project like this with lots of other possible clients. It's good to look professional, so you might get more work. Then I also have lots of wires, batteries, power bricks, nothing interesting really. Lots of microfiber cloths right here, a blower, some ND filters, straps. Ooh, and then I have one thing that I use all of the time, and that is this, if I can get it out, like a color checker passport thing. So usually when I'm shooting, I can use the auto white balance if I want. I can also set it manually, like, if it's a cloudy day, 6,000 Kelvin, 6,500, whatever. I prefer to just set the balance using this here. I can just set the white balance in the camera right here, and it's perfectly correct. And then also, usually I do a clean slate of this, or like I take a clip of this, and that's mainly to match cameras if I'm using different cameras, like the A7R5 or the A7S3, if I'm using them interchangeably, or if I'm shooting in different areas or different times a day or whatever. Just shooting a little clip of this makes it easier for me to match colors in post between areas, between times a day, between projects. It's just nice to have. I don't use it all the time, but it's nice to have for consistency over a project or over something, And then of course you have in here in the side of the bag, I have SSDs, I have SD cards, I have little batteries, locks, air tags, business card, stuff like that. Then if I close it, right here, I have computer, M2 Max, just a MacBook. And then what I feel is a little bit more exciting than the computer is this, my new iPad Pro M4. It's great. I use it a lot for as a second monitor, mostly for my camera. So I have a single monitor setup at home, and like 70% of the time I need a second monitor. So I just plug this in or just do it wirelessly and then have it below my monitor and I can edit. And then for traveling, I like to use this a lot because when I'm traveling, I more like to have a second monitor, because usually if I'm traveling for work, I'm editing a lot, doing file transfers and whatever. So having two monitors is fantastic. Also just, watch movies, answer emails, stuff like that. So iPad, great, I love it. And then I have a good old-fashioned notebook. I've tried lots of note-taking apps and organizational apps and scheduling apps and all that sort of stuff, to-doist, to-do apps, whatever. None of them have worked. I've tried dozens of them over the past 5-10 years. None of them have worked for me. I always fall back to just writing it down. So I have a very specific notebook that I like to use. I like to have a dotted, checkered notebook like this. And then I like to use this specific pen. I don't know what type of pen it is. A Pilot Acro Ball. This specific notebook, this specific pen. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Oh, also, before I forget, with the SSDs, I don't just have one. I actually have 3, so 6 terabytes of capacity. But I'm not shooting 6 terabytes of footage or photos. Usually it's like maybe a terabyte over a Formula One weekend, maybe one or 2 terabytes. But these are mainly to have copies. I have 3 copies, or usually 2 copies, but then I have a backup SSD just in case. 2 copies of everything, and then when I leave after the weekend or leave after the project, 1 SSD goes into my carry-on, 1 SSD goes into my checked bag, just so if something happens to the carry-on, I have the checked bag with the SSD. And if something happens to the checked bag, I still have my carry-on with the SSD, so the footage is safe, and because that's really what matters. But then I also have in my checked luggage like a small bag of knickknacks and stuff that I might need maybe just in case, or somebody else might need. So I carry around lots of screws, hex keys, magic arms, more microfiber cloths, all sorts of cables, micro SD, USB-C, good old-fashioned mini USB, Lightning, whatever, you name it, I probably have it. And this is mainly because, you know, if I were in trouble, I would like if there would be somebody to, you know, bail me out, help me, or, you know, have some item that I would need, whatever, you know. So I thought, you know, why not be that person that has everything, you know? So if people need, like, if people in my team or somebody around me needs a charge or an extra power bank or an extra power brick, I have it. So it's just nice to know that everybody around you is safe as well, because not everyone is as organized as you might want. I usually have 3 types of headphones on me at all times. First of all, I have my big Sony ones, and then I have my small Sony ones, and then I have my AirPods as well, right here. And the main reason for this is I have my big ones for obvious reasons. Good sound, good noise canceling, good battery, good everything. But if I'm just walking around downtown, I don't want to have to be lugging around big headphones. Also, if I'm going to Sao Paulo, you know, it's easy to take these off your head. So this is mainly for the office and editing. So I have my small ones for if I'm walking around, if I'm going for a run, something like that. I have, you know, still great sound quality. And then I have my shitty headphones, the AirPods. So with the Sonys, they're noise canceling. I don't hear anything that's going on around me. And if I'm walking around Sao Paulo, working with, you know, a whole team around me, but I'm also like on my phone or something, or driving, for example, I'm taking a car in Sao Paulo, I need to be able to take a call, listen to something without, you know, completely closing myself off from the outside world. So I have my Sonys if I want to listen to something properly, and then I have my shitty headphones for if I want to, you know, take a phone call or need to listen to something while being, you know, aware of my surroundings, you know. So yeah, that's my camera bag for now at least. Of course, this is mostly for traveling. If I'm taking a job here back home in Iceland, I won't pack as much stuff, you know, not 3 headphones or 3 bags or something like that. But, you know, these are my essentials. This is what I take usually for every project. But yeah, if I could do something better, if I could do something more efficiently, do not comment on the state of my bag, please. I know. I also want to thank my buddy Davíð for lending me his gear cage. I couldn't do this back home in my living room, so he graciously lent me a camera and this space to shoot in, and I have to leave now because there's another person coming in. But please follow him on YouTube as well. His name is Davíð Kode. I'll link his channel below, or here, or somewhere. And yeah, so thank you for watching. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll try to answer. And yeah, goodbye. Goodbye.